If the last 15 years have felt like just a relentless roller coaster of one crisis right after another, you're definitely not alone. The world feels chaotic, right? But what if all this disruption isn't random? What if it's actually the beginning of a profound transformation? Well, in this explainer, we're going to try to connect the dots and move from all that chaos to some clarity. I mean, it's the question we're all asking ourselves, isn't it? We've had financial meltdowns, a global pandemic, sudden wars, and AI appearing almost overnight. It really feels like the rules of our world are being rewritten right in front of us. But to really understand what's happening, we first need to take a quick look back. So, to see where we're headed, we have to get our heads around the sheer scale of the disruption we've just lived through. Let's do a quick recap of the major shocks that have really defined this turbulent era. Just look at this timeline for a second. It kicks off with the Arab Spring in 2010, which was when we first saw a new force, social media, prove it could literally topple governments. Then by 2014, the post-Cold War peace was just shattered with the annexation of Crimea. Then 2016 rolls around and delivers the political earthquakes of Brexit and the Trump election. And before anyone could even process that, the 2020 pandemic brought the entire world to a screeching halt. As if that wasn't enough, 2022 saw the return of a major war in Europe and the dawn of the generative AI revolution with ChatGPT. It's just been this nonstop barrage, with each event making the others even more intense. So, how is history going to look back on all this? Well, historians aren't going to see a random list of crises. They're going to search for the deeper pattern, that common thread running through all this chaos. And here's the key insight. Our era isn't just a bunch of events happening. It's what's known as a transitional period. And that's when old systems start to crumble to make way for the new. So it's not random chaos. It's foundational change. And to understand an era like this, historians try to give it a name, usually based on the single biggest force that's driving all that change. So what name will our era get? Well, there are a few strong contenders right now. People might call it the Second Cold War, focusing on that US-China rivalry. Or maybe the AI revolution age for pretty obvious reasons. You could even make a good case for the pandemic transition period, given how much COVID had reshaped everything. Or how about the SNS politics age, that social networking service, which makes sense because social media has totally rewired politics. And some people even point to the space industry revolution. The thing is, each of these names really captures a vital piece of the truth. But while all those names capture a part of the story, there's a consensus starting to form that three shifts in particular are the real game changers, the main engines driving this entire global transformation. That's it, just three. Out of all this mind-boggling complexity, we can boil it down to three fundamental forces that aren't just changing our world, they are literally building the next one. And here they are, ranked by their long-term impact. Now, the pandemic was a massive, massive shock. It completely rewired how we work and trade. The US-China competition, that pretty much signals the definitive end of a world with just one superpower. But at number one is the AI revolution. So why is that? Well, think of it this way. While the others change the pieces on the chessboard, AI changes the rules of the game itself. It's starting the automation of human intellectual labor, and that's a shift on par with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so if these are the forces shaping our world, what does it actually look like when all the dust settles? Let's try to fast forward to the year 2040 and explore the new reality that's beginning to take shape. Analysts are projecting that this new world will be built on 5 core pillars. And you should think of these not as just a few predictions, but as the new, stable foundations that are going to define the middle of this century. First up, the end of the unipolar world. That's a done deal. The era of a single US-centric order is over. And what's replacing it is a multipolar world, where power is more distributed among major players, like the US, China, the EU, India, and Russia, with each one commanding its own sphere of influence. But here's the twist. It's not just nations that are going to hold power anymore. There's a new player emerging on the world stage, the tech quasi-state. So while governments control territory and armies, these giant corporations control the new levers of power: data, AI, and global communications. Their influence won't just be geopolitical, it's going to be civilizational. And of course, there's AI. By 2040, its impact is going to be absolutely everywhere. And we're not just talking about factory robots. We are talking about the automation of high-level knowledge work, fields you see right here: law, medicine, research, programming, even military strategy. They're all going to be fundamentally redesigned by AI, which will trigger massive shifts in the very nature of human work itself. The fourth major shift? It's all about energy. The geopolitical power that came from controlling oil, that's going to fade. In its place, a whole new energy landscape is emerging, built on things like high-efficiency solar, advanced batteries, small modular nuclear reactors, and maybe even the beginning of commercially viable nuclear fusion. This is going to completely redraw the global energy map. And finally, we look up. Space is no longer just a final frontier for exploration. It is becoming a vibrant, core part of the global economy. Thanks to the huge cost reductions from companies like SpaceX, things like satellite mega-constellations and mining resources on the moon are becoming real industries. We're actually going to start talking about space GDP as a serious economic measurement. So, a multipolar world, tech quasi-states, an AI-driven economy, a new energy grid, and a space-based economy. Wow. When you put all of these pieces together, it becomes crystal clear we aren't just living through another interesting historical period. We're living through something much, much bigger. And this is the ultimate takeaway. The changes happening right now, they're not just a transition. They are the third great revolution in all of human history. The first was the agricultural revolution, which gave us civilization. The second was the industrial revolution, which mechanized physical labor. And we are living through the third, the AI revolution, the mechanization of thought itself. This is a fundamental shift in the human condition. We're not just watching history from the sidelines. We are the generation living through one of its most profound transformations. And that, of course, leaves us with the biggest question of all. Knowing this, what comes next?